welcome. Welcome to the Doctor Connect, where we are connecting through inspiring stories and providing education and information about health, wellness, cancer, and medical technology. I'm your host, Dr. Ludmila Schaefer, broadcasting from Kansas City in the United States. And today we are joined by very special guests, and we will discuss about mindfulness and how well we have to do with our mind. It's a lot of questions arise for the past year, especially when pandemic started. A lot of people start changing how things should be done. We are adjusting to new lifestyle. And today we will learn a lot about new tools and how we can move forward to do better. And we will be right back. Well, welcome, Alex. Welcome. You are our guest today, our first guest. Alex, hi, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. And I'm very happy to be here on your show.
Excellent. Well, Alex, please tell us your full name and where are you located, and then we will dive into deep story.
My name is Alex Montagu, and at the moment I'm in London.
Excellent. And thank you for joining us. We are located in different continents. And what I learned that right now, for the past couple of years, year and a half, the world become flat. It's really flat. So right now, I'm so grateful actually sitting next to you. And I can't wait to hear more about your story. Please tell us what you do and a little bit of your backstory.
Okay, well, I am actually a practicing lawyer, and my business is located in New York City. That's our base, but it's an international law firm that I founded and I run. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. Because I started a side practice, and it's really not fair to call it a side practice because it's really become the main feature and focus of my life. And that's the Tranquil Lawyer, which is a website that I started that is dedicated to bringing the practices of meditation and mindfulness to the legal community and the business community, where I think these tools are very lacking. And I say that they're lacking. I'm sorry.
No, Alex, this is fascinating because you said you're an attorney and now you do that. Can you tell us a little bit? So you do have practice, and I understand you degree and boards, bar exams. So it's a little bit. So I want to learn start from there, and then what brought you where we are here today.
That's right. So the Tranquil Lawyer is a non-commercial endeavor, and it is purely there to help people. And the reason I started it is that these tools have been available for a long time. I mean, the Buddha introduced meditation 5,000 years ago, or 2,500 years ago. I'm sorry, not 5,000 years ago. What am I saying? But anyway, so the tools have been around, but I find that they're not commonly used, and it certainly wasn't in my case. So, I have higher degrees. I went to Princeton, I went to Cambridge in England, I went to Harvard Law School. I have all those degrees, but I reached a point in life where those degrees were not really helpful. I mean, I don't mean to knock them. They were very helpful in me running my business, but they were not helpful in me managing my life.
Yeah.
That includes that when life puts pressures on you, and sometimes in my case, for example, it was a confluence of events, there was a sickness of a child, no one thing, but all these things came together to create such difficulty for me. I saw no way out, and I didn't have the tools to be able to see a path forward. And this is what leads to difficulties like depression, like anger, these types of very difficult emotions to deal with. And what I found is that my meditation practice has increased my mindfulness, which has increased the quality of my life by so much, I can't even tell you. So I just want to clarify a distinction between meditation and mindfulness, because I think that there's a lot of confusion there as to what these are. So just really, because we're going to be talking about them.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So mindfulness is basically a quality of awareness where you can perceive the reality of the present moment without the fears and distortions of the mind. You see, the mind creates all sorts of distortions that cloud your judgment, and these happen generally when you are experiencing an intense emotion like anger. You'll do something that you normally wouldn't do. So mindfulness is a quality of awareness that allows you to see the present moment reality as it is, as opposed to through these clouds, that mental clouds. And fear is another one. Is a very big one. It challenges us, and we make very bad decisions from a place of fear. So that's mindfulness. Meditation is a practice that allows you to develop mindfulness. In other words, meditation is a practice, just as you go to the gym to develop muscle mass and shape. Meditation is a practice that allows you to develop this type of mental acuity so that you can see reality as it actually is, as opposed to through these distortions of the mind, distortions like fear, as I said, like anger, like jealousy. And this has been around for such a long time. If you know that Shakespeare play Othello,
yeah,
that's a great example of a distorted mind, right? Othello is a very intelligent man, right? But his mind is so distorted that he doesn't have any mindfulness. He doesn't see the reality. He is so jealous. His jealousy has blinded him so much that it actually leads to a very, very bad situation. It leads to the breakdown of his relationship. It leads to a catastrophe. So this is the thing with all of us, right? That we don't see reality clearly. We see it through these distortions of our own jealousy, of our own mental patterns conditioned from birth based on past traumas, what the Buddhists call samskaras, which can be positive and negative. And so what we do in meditation is we sit and we look at our own mind. And so we slow down and we start to see these patterns as they arise. And so this has been hugely helpful for me because, as I said, before I came to these practices, like everybody else, I was just jumping from one thing to another, to another, to another, from one desire to another, just constantly pulled by these emotions and these feelings that I didn't really understand: irritation, frustration. Do you see what I'm saying? And these have really receded for me. And the way that most people think, well, okay, so I'm frustrated. Maybe I need a break. I need a vacation. Well, when you go on vacation, guess what you take with you? You take your mind with you.
Yeah.
That is, if you have a troubled mind, the vacation is not, you could get more angry at the airport, the flight is late, I don't know, whatever happens, things happen, right? Reality, flight is late. Right now, there are all these problems with the virus and quarantines and checks. So it's possible that if you have that type of a mind, the vacation will actually make it worse.
Make it worse, yes.
Worse. So what you thought was going to be making it better will make it worse, because you haven't really addressed the problem at the root, which is in your mind.
This right.
Is where these problems form. Stress and anxiety And these, the Buddhists call the afflictive emotions of anger and jealousy and these types, and fear. Fear is a very big one.
Yeah. So Alex, can I interrupt you for a second? You mentioned very important, like when we want a vacation, we go on vacation, we take with us. And for years, I've been challenged when people say that, oh, if I just wait until Friday, thanks God it's Friday. I never believed in thanks God it's Friday, because I guess what's after Friday? It comes later Monday. It's just a little bit later. And when people wait, it's 8 to 5. If I just get home, if I just get at 5 o'clock, then my life will be better. No, it's not happening. We have to really be mindful and make sure that we stay consistent. Is that something that I understand correctly, or you have a different point of view?
Absolutely, because what you're doing when you're saying, I have to wait until that to be happy, what are you doing? You're resisting the present moment.
Yeah.
You are resisting the now, the present moment. It means you don't like the present moment. Your mind is telling you, I don't like the present moment. And that is what you need to deal with, because there is no such thing as I don't like the present moment. The present moment is reality. It is.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? It's just your mind is telling you, oh, this is bad. I don't like this. I don't like to be at work. I prefer to be at home, sitting down in front of the TV. And then if you don't have the job, and if you're in front of the TV for too long, then your mind is not going to like that. It's going to say, well, I don't like them. So what we do is we try to see that process. Oh, my mind is telling me I don't like this. What is that? What does this feel like? Right? I was on the tube, the subway the other day, and a lot of people came in, and my mind was telling me, oh, I don't like this. Oh, I don't like this. I can't wait for this to, why did all these people come in? I want an empty subway. You see what I'm saying? That's also a distortion. It's the same type of thing. Wouldn't life be easier if you could accept the present moment as it unfolds? I'm not saying you have to like it, you have to love it, but accept it and just say, oh, the subway is crowded now. Oh, my mind doesn't like it. Or, oh, I'm at work and I don't know, my colleague has just said this, I don't like it.
Accept it.
Accept it. And then you also realize, passes like that. You see, that's the other thing we don't realize, which again, these are teachings from a long time ago. The Buddha realized the truth of impermanence. Nothing is lasting. We seem to think everything is lasting. We seem to think, oh my God, this subway is crowded. I don't like it. Well, guess what? 2 minutes later, they all left. It wasn't crowded anymore. Or, you're at work and one day you don't like it, but you know what? The next day it could be totally different. You're liking it. You're working on a project and it's very good and you like it. So this is your outlook. And this is when we say that we learn to look at the world with new eyes, right? And then you start to really live. Because at the moment, we're not really living. We're living in our mind. We're not paying attention to what's actually happening. We're constantly living through our mind saying, I don't like this. I don't like this. I want it to end. I want the workday to end so I can go home. And then what do you do when you get home? Are you going to be present and whatever you're doing? No, you're going to say, oh, I wonder when I'm going to take my next vacation. I wonder what I'm going to do next. It's not going to be your home like, oh, okay, now I'm home. Now I'm paying attention to the present moment. The present moment is great. No, you could get home. You could have a fight with your spouse. You could have a problem with your child or your parent, whatever it is. This continues. You know what I'm saying? Oh, if you're in the office, you think it's going to be great when you go home. When you go home, you have a fight. You think, oh, I can't wait till I get up and go to the office tomorrow morning.
Yeah. So, Alex, let me ask you, and we also want to speak about some strategies for our audience. Yes. There is such a thing when things sort of persistent, sort of consistent, but also intermittent, or something that we do out of flight or fight response. And sometimes we just, like you just talk about Shakespeare, some of it might be the way we see for a long time, how we develop things from our childhood. But some of the things we just do out of fight or flight. So how do we actually, the tools, let's speak about tools, what we can implement when it's something that it's constantly, I just don't know how to get out of the way I am, or versus that I control myself what I have to. I'm okay with my 8 to 5 days and I don't wait for vacation, but also I do something out of flight and fight response. And how do we manage both of that?
Okay, that's a good question. So short-term strategies, more long-term strategies, right? So just you raised a very important point here, which is that our conditioned mind follows a pattern that we're really not aware of, which is informed by past traumas. So, for example, someone gave this example of a Vietnam vet who was, I think it's in Oprah's new book, by the way, written by with a doctor. The doctor gave this example of a Vietnam vet who was walking many years after the Vietnam War, was walking down the street, fine, and a motorcycle exhaust makes a really loud noise, and he just runs and crawls between cars, and in a fetal position, just scared. Fear overtakes him, and that's because he had been at war, and that sound, his mind, his subconscious, perceived that motorcycle noise as a potential existential threat to him. Now, he had no awareness of this. This all happens in your subconscious. So things that happen to you primarily from childhood traumas, later on in life, various things bring them up and you don't make the connection. Like it could be a smell, or a sound that brings back something very traumatic, but you don't know that it's that. Right? And then you have a very bad reaction of fear or anger or, whatever it is. So the first thing that you need to do is to raise your awareness, to become aware that this is what's happening.
But how do you do that?
Okay, so how do you do that? So I'm going to tell you that it takes a while. This is why we do meditation. Meditation practice is the best way to do that, because you sit and you practice. The mind, we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. It goes very fast, right? So when it's going very fast, it's very difficult to have that awareness, right? When the sound goes off, even before, your conscious mind, the top of your mind, which is the cortex of the mind, which is where we control, is the control center of the mind, right? The other parts are already, the lower stem is already vibrating and sending you crawling because it's triggering a trauma response. So you need to develop this awareness. So you do this over time through meditation, a very consistent practice. I emphasize this to all of my anyone who studies with me, all of my students. I emphasize to them that this is work that they have to do with them by themselves. No, I can't do it for them. No one can do it. You have to work with your own mind.
So but do you have any one tool that, let's say, we practice not too long, but that you can start right now? Like, let's say, I'm speaking to you, but actually my mind, it's out there. No, for the audience, no, my mind is with Alex. I can reassure you. Right. But let's say, what can I do right now? My mind preoccupied.
If your mind is in turmoil, if you're having very difficult thoughts of, if you're triggered and you have anger or a tremendous jealousy or envy or fear is another one. My recommendation is to sit with a straight back.
Okay, I'm going to ask all audience who've been listening to us, please follow Alex. So I'm doing with you, Alex. So I'm sitting
with a straight back in this posture, as you see me here. Relax your back. Okay. Relax your shoulders. I know your mind doesn't want you to think about your shoulders, but bring your mind, just say relax your shoulders, relax your neck, and then try to breathe very deeply. We call them diaphragmatic breaths. Breathe into your stomach through your stomach all the way in. Hold it, hold it, hold it, and now breathe out. Keep exhaling all the way out. Do that 9 times.
Okay.
It will make a big difference. You will see that will calm you down in the moment. Okay, so that's a temporary strategy. That is not a long-term fix. That is not going to prevent this from happening again, because the chances are that you're going to be triggered again and again and again. And then if you start noticing, you'll see that all day long, actually, there are things that trigger you, small and large.
That's right.
Right? Various people,
Mm-hmm.
family members, whatever they say, they do, right? Some drivers out there might trigger you. You don't even know them, but you get upset with the way they drive.
Right.
So that
I want
to deal with. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I want to compliment what you're saying, because right now they speak about like physician burnout. That's something that, experiencing left and right. So, for the audience, for the purpose, I just want you apply to yourself. So who is with us, who is listening us, please apply to yourself, apply where you are. And what Alex describing, it's the tools in a certain situation, but you might have a different occupation and different triggers. Yes, Alex, please.
So these to address the triggers on a long-term basis, so that you can actually deal with it when it arises, right? So that your mind is able to perceive the motorcycle sound as a motorcycle sound and not as this feared, right? So as I said, mindfulness is the perception of reality without the distortions of the mind. And in that situation, this person isn't perceiving reality clearly. He is not perceiving the motorcycle sound as what it is. It's a motorcycle sound. It's gone. There's no danger. He's afraid. So we all have this. It's all in our subconscious. So we practice meditation every day. I recommend 15 minutes a day. If you can do it longer, you do it longer. It's a very simple practice. You sit the way I suggested, okay? And I'm offering some free meditation, 15 minutes free meditation through my website, The Tranquil Lawyer. So if anybody wants that, I could give them the instructions and they can do it. And as I said, it's all free. I want people to learn this because it helped me so much. So you sit in a posture with your straight back and the relaxed shoulders, relax the back of your neck, and just bring your attention to your breath and just feel your breath. It enters and leaves your nose. That's it.
Excellent. Alex, and also when we speak about it, if someone does not do meditation and, overall does not really, take this concept, for a long period of time, and I can tell you a lot of, in the scientific community, and people say, well, it's just not for me. It's not for me. And the people warm up a little bit. So how would you recommend for some audience or maybe community, how to reset your mindset, how to have your mindset to start doing what you're recommended? Because there are some people practicing, but how do you actually reset? How do you have your mindset to start doing it? What people can do?
Okay, so this is interesting you ask me that. We live in two different worlds. We live in an external world, and then we live our internal world, right? And we don't really care about the external world. Only as it affects our internal world, right?
Yeah, that's right.
What's happening out there, it doesn't matter. But if we want to feel good, then we don't want to feel bad, right? So, like, you want the butterfly, but you don't want the snake, right? That's because of the way the mind works. But one thing that you don't realize is that you have no control over the outside world, but you have all the control on the inside world. You have the control on the inside world. whatever you decide you want to do, you will do. Let me repeat that. Whatever you decide that you want to do, you will do.
Love it.
You know
100%
what I'm saying?
agree.
You decide, I am going to stop smoking. If you truly make that intention, you will stop. You will stop. If you truly decide, not, oh, well, maybe I'll have one. No, if you really, because you're within that control. Now, when I say you're totally within that control, I don't mean if you decide you're going to go and lift a really heavy weight. Well, okay, you can't do that. But what I'm saying is your internal world, you are in control of that. You're not in control of the outside world. So if you say to yourself, okay, I am going to follow this path. I am now going to, things have not worked out. And this is what happened with me. Things have not worked out. Like my degrees from Princeton and Harvard did not help solve these personal problems that I had that were caused by these triggers from the past that kept coming up. This is the case with all of us, right? But I didn't realize that. Those degrees weren't helping me with that. Those degrees were not helping me when my child was really sick and I was panicking, or when I had relationship problems, or you know what I'm saying? So then I said, okay, well, what will help me? I went for a search of that and I found these tools. But they require an internal decision to dedicate at least a small portion of your day to doing it. So, okay, I am going to create the intention to meditate 15 minutes a day. And what is it? Meditation is you sit there and you focus on the breath and you see your thoughts as they arise and fall off.
Yeah.
So you have to form the intention to do this, because otherwise you're just going to continue going through life as you have in the past. And you don't understand why things happen to you as they do. Why are you having a problem with this person or your child or your spouse or your parents or your coworker, or, you know, all these things happen, right? Job loss happens, sickness happens. These things happen. These are external things. They affect all of us, right? It's how we perceive them. We have control over how we perceive them. We have control. And if we perceive them mindfully, without these distortions, we'll lead a much happier life. If Othello was able to see through his jealousy, he would realize that he has Desdemona is actually quite a lovely wife.
Yes.
And it would, right. But no, he didn't. And he was a very successful, you know, he was outwardly very successful, right?
Yeah.
This is the case. Or Lady Macbeth is also, then her mind breaks down. You remember, but she also wants power. She wants power. You know, we have a lot of people in this world who think that their happiness will come from lots of power.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. And love it. Alexa, I wish I would speak with you for a long period of time. Unfortunately, for time, but we would love to continue conversation. And with Shakespeare, we're almost at our short time. And before we actually finish, and I would love to connect with you just shortly. What is your last sort of 30-second tip for the audience?
Please meditate. Please take time to look at your own mind. The mind needs a bit of time by itself. Turn inwards. Don't be afraid of your own mind. Become familiar with it.
Excellent. Thank you. And that was Alex Montagu with Tranquila Lawyer. Please connect with Alex. And especially that in the current world, it's something that he is offering. It can be done very easy. It can be done while you're sitting on a couch. You can find any location in your house. It doesn't require a lot of tools or fancy devices that we carry every single day. So please connect. Thank you, Alex. And we will see you right back. Thank you so much being on our show. And I will connect with you in a few minutes.
Thank you for having me.
And this is the Dr. Connect show. Thank you very much for being with us and connecting through inspiring stories. We are providing education and information, and we will be right back. I'm Dr. Ludmila Schaefer, and I level the playing field of knowledge around wellness, medicine, and research to help you to make informed decisions. Paula, welcome. Please.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, and Paula, before we start having all conversation, and I just can't wait to discuss so many valuable topics, can you please tell us full name, where are you located, and then we'll dive deep.
Sure. So my full name is Paula Denoncourt, and I am located right now in the Lake Norman area in North Carolina, and originally from Massachusetts. I moved here a couple of years ago.
That's amazing. And how is the weather there right now?
Oh my God, it's gorgeous. I just spent the day at the pool. I did some swimming. I absolutely love swimming. I know back in Massachusetts, I don't think it's hit yet, but I think Hurricane Henry is hitting. So I'm just so thankful to be here.
Yeah. So a lot of times we start conversation about the weather and probably our audience think like, oh, maybe we don't have a topic to discuss. But I actually ask about the weather on purpose because I know you have a lot of secrets to share. And sometimes when we call someone, we ask, how is the weather today? And it seems like, well, that's not topic for conversation. Well, I want to reassure everyone, this is not the case. So can you please tell us a little bit what you do, and then we'll discuss why I brought up the weather.
Okay. So I'm a holistic health consultant, and I help people stop suffering from pain. I help people stop living, with all that joint pain, being bloated all the time, not knowing what to eat. I do things, I help them by doing one-on-one coaching, group coaching. I've put together recipe books and ebooks. They're all digital, that are all like dairy-free, gluten-free, sugar-free, that type of thing, to help bring down inflammation. So that can help with weight loss. That can help with people that have food sensitivities, allergies, autoimmune issues, and even cancer, because they're low sugar, so they're not feeding that illness in the body. So that's what I do. I've done a lot of group coaching. I've done some raw food classes. I've taken a raw food class back in the Boston area. So I've taught that. And that's basically just teaching people how to eat whole food and go back to basics. It's not anything scary. It's not like eating raw hamburger or raw sushi. It's just eating whole foods and not cooking them. You don't cook them more than 115 to 118 degrees. So you eat your foods whole. That way you're getting the digestive enzymes. We're not getting enough digestive enzymes in cooked food. So I am not a complete raw foodist. I do have some cooked food here and there, but I had to reset my body because I suffered from multiple food allergies. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I know that's a lot about, you mentioned about allergy, and that's why, ask about the weather, because things changing so much. And even all of us live in a different climate, different states, different continents. There is still some certain degree. Can you tell me a little bit, how's the allergy, and, how, from your perspective, could be dealt with it?
Yeah, so here some helpful tips for dealing with allergies. So this was my experience for me, and I did read about it, and it does help. It's not to say it's a cure-all, total medical disclaimer here. I'm not here to cure you. So I can't do that, but just drinking water alone helped me tremendously, because your body, and as you know, produces more histamines when you're dehydrated. So if you look up your body's many cries for water, this doctor, that man, something, I can't say his name. You might know who he is. I can't say his name, but if you look up your body's many cries for water, he talks about it. Allergies and asthma, you need water to help with your lungs, to help with the allergies, so you're not producing as many histamines. So, excuse me, that's one thing that helped me tremendously. if I started to get stuffed up or sneezy, sniffly, I would drink water. It was like a miracle cure for me. The other thing that helped, believe it or not, was vitamin C. Why? Vitamin C boosts the immune system. So as silly as it sounds, just eating more fruits and vegetables, getting in smoothies, I wasn't getting all stuffy and sniffly and sneezy anymore. Back in Massachusetts, the seasons usually run around May, sometime in May. I forget which one's which, but you've got goldenrod and you've got ragweed. And both those times of year are just horrendous for people with allergies.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to have more water, more vitamin C. I used to have to lock the doors. I couldn't go outside. Couldn't even go in a pool, believe it or not, because there was so much pollen on the top of a pool. So I had to lock myself up. Well, my parents did, actually, and not in a bad way. But yeah, I would have to be in a room with an air conditioner on. Couldn't be outside with the pollen. It was just horrendous for me. I couldn't breathe. I was a mess. So those are my tips. Get more water. Get your fruits and vegetables, the vitamin C. That will help you tremendously. The other thing is, with this illness going around, COVID, Delta, whatever variants of it there are, allergy season is high right now. I don't care what state you're in, especially if it's warm. Everything is out in full bloom. There's ragweed, there's goldenrod, all these types of things. So by getting more water, getting your fruits and vegetables, your allergy symptoms will be less. And even like herbal teas help too, because that's also water. So if you're like, I hate water, my mother used to say that.
Yeah.
There's other things you can do. Have some herbal tea, get your water from your foods. So, and then the other thing to be aware with allergies, a lot of people don't realize different things are related to other foods. So, for instance, like ragweed is a relative to the melon and chamomile. So what would happen to me, this is crazy, but my body was such a mess that when the pollen would come out so thick, I started to get chest pains. And I didn't know what that was. Well, I figured it out by accident, believe it or not. Took a Benadryl to cure the allergy problem. And then the chest pains would start to go away. So I put 2 and 2 together. Your body's like a bucket. When there's just too much for it to handle, then other symptoms will arise. So that's what the chest pain was. It was actually from the allergies. I was young when that happened to me. I wasn't having a heart attack. I was really young, So oddly enough, the Benadryl cured it. So I knew that was it was just allergies. So now I'm a lot better. That doesn't happen to me anymore, because I've overcome and conquered what was causing the problem. So basically for me, I was just overloaded. I was having foods. I had multiple food allergies, like I said. Some foods that really weren't agreeing with me, and I didn't know which ones. Then you get the pollen on top of that. My body was just fighting so much. So that's another thing to look into. If something's bothering you a certain time of year, maybe apples or pears, they might be related to like the birch tree, which that when it's in full bloom and now you're eating apples or pears, it might bother you more a certain time of year. So that's a really good tip that I wanted to give people that I don't think people think about.
Yeah, thank you, Paula, for sharing your experience. Because right now we notice that it's really hard to find actually a person who doesn't try to see, what other alternative methods we can use. And I grew up in everything organic and homegrown and basically canned. And it was not very many medications, or, we sort of everything was homegrown, and that's how we took care. But right now also we see that a lot of people, they would be taking, and I was reading the data the other day, the statistics show that a lot of people taking, vitamins and supplements and herbs. And there are other things that kind of could interact from your body, within your body, because everybody has a different, genetics, different condition. And how you brought up, you had a chest pain. And it's not like for whole audience, if you have a chest pain, you have to go to emergency department.
Right.
But also pay attention in your body and try to examine and make a list of your symptoms and sort of investigate. And I really support important how you said that, you try. And I think it's also collaboration, not just rely, test, and you should rely on the test and, other things, but also pay attention what's going on in your body. And I think how you put this in perspective. And with that, Paula, I want to ask you, what actually led you, what maybe childhood story or episode or experience or day in your life that brought you in doing what you're doing today?
Well, actually, it was all because I had such health challenges. I worked in a prison for 22 years. So just imagine working in a prison and feeling like a prisoner yourself. A lot of times I was forced to stay. So I was there from, 7 to 3, 3 to 11 until almost 11:15, I'm all day. Sometimes didn't get much relief, it was just a really tough place to be. It's very stressful. I was a dispatcher. I wasn't supposed to be on by myself, but I worked from 3 to 11 a lot of those years. And it was stressful. So that stress really brought my body, basically was breaking down. No other way to put it. It was my body was breaking down from that. So I wouldn't say childhood per se, but I just had to start figuring out how to help myself. I did try going to doctors. I went to alternative practitioners. Nobody could give me any direct answers because at the time, I think it was like maybe 2000, 2001 when this started happening. Here in the U.S., here in Massachusetts, nobody knew what to do with me, to be honest. They were used to people having either a nut allergy or a milk allergy or little things here and there, but I had multiple. I did get tested like 3 years in a row. It did change a little bit from here to there, but for the most part, I was just allergic to everything. You name it, corn, oats, wheat, gluten, nuts, everything. I had to reset my entire body. So the more I started to learn about what I could do for myself, because nobody could help me the way I needed it. I mean, I even went to a nutritionist, and nothing against nutritionists whatsoever. They were just more concentrating on what my body needed. I was more concentrating on what I was going to have to keep me alive. My rock bottom was I was starving myself, and I wound up stopping at the grocery store for marshmallows because I needed sugar. My body needed sugar. Oddly enough, the marshmallows didn't bother me. I knew I couldn't live that way. Mm-hmm. So the more I started to study, what I could do for myself, I started to realize I could do this for other people. So that's how I became a health coach. And in fact, Alex Jameson was one of my mentors, one of my first mentors from the movie Super Size Me. So she was really a really great role model. I, at the time, didn't think I would go to integrative nutrition in New York City. I was a little, country bumpkin from a small town, and I was like, I can't go to New York. I can't. You want to talk about mindset? I was like, how can I do that? I can't go to New York. Well, fast forward a few years later, and I told Alex, I said, Alex, one of these days I'm going to be working side by side with you, and if we're not now, but in a sense we are. We're doing, that same kind of work. So fast forward a few years later, I did wind up going to New York. My neighbor was a great friend and took me by the hand. We went to New York. We figured out, okay, how am I going to get there? I took the bus, where I was going to stay, all that kind of, then little by little, I met people and that worked out. So yeah, it was just amazing for me to go to New York City. And going back to the childhood thing, I used to be shy. I was like the shyest girl in the class. I was afraid of my own shadow. So for me, this country little girl going to New York City by herself was huge.
Yes, I cannot imagine. And now you are on so many platforms and basically will be seen globally. So that's
right.
Oh yes, where is our? Yes, absolutely. Well, I never thought I will be doing this, broadcast and this type of things, but life changes. Right. And I really like how you share a story, and that brings to the mindset. I like how you said that, you had this sort of turning point when you were working and then, change. And now things from being shy in a small town, you are in New York. So what actually precipitated? How did you, put your mindset in perspective, sort of go from, this side to this side?
I don't know.
Certain factors that play a role?
I guess I just said, I'm doing this. I need to do this, and I'm doing this.
Yes.
I just truly, I believe God is a big part of it. He just was calling me. It's kind of silly, but I kept seeing apples, and I didn't know why. And then when you put two and two together, what's New York known for? The Big Apple.
Yeah.
So you got to pay attention to the signs. I think, he was calling me there, and I just didn't, I didn't realize it right away. And, I wasn't that smart about it. Pay attention to the signs. If you keep seeing the same thing over and over again, then that's something you should pay attention to. Our pain is our purpose. Things that we go through, things that happen to us, there's a reason behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're meant to help other people with it. So I'm not only meant to help people with food allergies or food sensitivities, but Lyme disease also fell into my lap. So I help with that. I've helped with Central Foundation. Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, it doesn't, just because I had food allergies doesn't necessarily mean that, that's the only thing I can help with. Mm-hmm. I've done talks for breast cancer too. And so different things. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I don't know. I just found once I started going to New York, that was kind of the tipping point. I found a strength in myself I didn't know I had. I'll put it that way. I found
it changed. And you brought up about Lyme disease, and there are probably audience who listening to us, and they have this. And a lot of times when someone has Lyme disease, the symptoms could be so vague and undiagnosed and unknown that it brings to also a lot of, personality changes. And it's just not because, something, it's just nobody can give you exact answer until a specific diagnosis. And then all of the sudden, boom, and exactly the answer. So can you share your experience?
My experience with?
You help people with Lyme disease, or?
Yeah, so I really helped with the community of Lyme, Lyme disease community. And my experience with that is just it's not easy. They really have to change their diet first and foremost. Everyone is slightly different where they are in Lyme disease. And if you don't know what Lyme disease is, it starts from a tick, but there are other ways that it can be transmitted. There are, some of it's controversial, like mother to birth, blood transfusions. Some of it's controversial, but it is being studied. So I want to say one thing with that. It was really eye-opening to me to find out about this disease and what it does to people. I think it can be worse than cancer, depending on the person who has cancer, where they are with cancer, or where they are with Lyme disease. But it affects every single organ in the body. Neurologically, we have a saying in the Lyme community, they really do get Lyme brain. They get forgetful. They get dementia-like qualities. And they can't get diagnosed. And that's not the doctor's fault. It's such a difficult disease to diagnose. Mm-hmm. You get the ELISA test, that's about 50% accurate. Get the Western blot test, that's about 80% accurate. Now they are starting to do, and for people that don't know, there are co-infections that fall under the umbrella of Lyme disease, like Bartonella and Babesia and things like that. And you can look it up. You can look it up on ilads.org. You can get a lot of this information. ILADS, that's ILAD as in dog, S as in Sam.org, and that's International Lyme Association Disease Society, I believe. And they're just the guru of doctors for Lyme disease and a lot of information. But it was very eye-opening to see what this illness is, what it can do to people, and how it just keeps getting misdiagnosed. People just keep getting thrown under the rug. And it's because a lot of doctors don't know how to, it's not even their fault. Like I said, the tests are hard to test. Mm-hmm. So going back to what I was saying, these 200 co-infections, they are starting to test for those. So if that comes back positive, at least now you have a diagnosis. Whereas before they weren't doing those 200 tests, and you've got to ask for it. If they don't know about it, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, Paula, we've been discussing here actually the other day here on the show how important and how much medical technology changed, and now we have new ways of diagnosis. And we are here sharing our stories and experiences, but also one of the bringing awareness not only about known type of cancers and other diagnoses, as well as rare and undiagnosed. So undiagnosed, rare, and that's something that right now we're trying to bridge the gap and close the gap actually between the scientists and the community. And that's why we're having this conversation. So then just people be aware, I just want to make sure for all audience, we're not diagnosing anyone or putting any specific restriction, or someone might think, oh, now I had the symptom. No. We just want to make sure that pay attention at your body. That's basically where we are. Yeah. Thank you, Paula. Thank you. So Paula, can you share like 3 tips with the audience? What would you like to share from all you do? If I'm right now at home, what are your 3 tips?
Oh, 3 tips. Well, I've already given you a couple.
Yes, no, you gave probably dozen.
I know, but the other one is what I just did today. Get your vitamin D, get outside, get your sunshine, because that's going to boost your immune system. And for the most part, I mean, I have no proof with this illness, COVID, Delta, or any of those. But for the most part, most illness does not live where there's oxygen. So get your oxygen, get exercise. Your body needs to move, that just getting sunshine, getting outside and moving. I love swimming. A couple of my neighbors were out there and we're all like, oh, it just feels so good to be out here and moving and swimming. And, if you don't have a pool, it might not be as hot as it is in North Carolina. Go for a walk, do something, get up and move. The other tip I would say, is not so much with food or any of that. Learn to look at things differently. Like I said earlier, your pain is your purpose. If you are ill out there, whether it's cancer, whether it's Lyme disease, whether it's food allergies, whatever, ask yourself, what is the purpose behind me getting this? Why am I going through this? Is it meant for me to help somebody else? Am I meant to be a practitioner in this? Am I meant to write a book about this? Ask yourself why. Or sometimes, it's a subconscious thing. Don't get me wrong. We don't sit up at night making ourselves sick, but sometimes we make ourselves sick for another reason. Maybe you've been the caregiver for somebody half your life, and now it's like, I want to be taken care of. So you get sick. Don't get me wrong. We don't sit there and say, oh, I want to be sick. Of course not. It's a subconscious thing because there's something missing that you need to make up for it. Like with me, it was my job. I didn't want to do my job anymore. So my body basically said, look, if you don't quit, I'm going to quit. That's basically what it came down to. And I did try to get out. I did do another job position. I was a secretary for about 6 years. But because of budget cuts, I went back to dispatch, which was a much more stressful position. But even with that, I learned to look at it differently. I was helping the people around me with health tips, and I didn't even know I was getting through to them. And, they would just say things to me once in a while, and I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know I was getting through it. They were listening. So just learn to look at things differently. Don't always look at things as why me. Look at it
in a complete way. Yeah.
Why not me? What can I do with this?
Yeah. So Paula, I would stay longer with you and would love to continue our conversation, but it's the almost top of the hour. How people can find you?
Yep. So your best bet is to go to my website, enrichyourhealth.com, enrichyourhealth.com. You can get most of my social media sites there, Facebook and Instagram. I'm on Clubhouse at Paula Dencourt. So I've been doing rooms in Clubhouse. So if you're on Clubhouse, if anybody knows who that is, that's how you and I met, knows what that is. Join me there as well. I do a room called Overcoming Illness. nutritional cleanse with homegrown foods. I'm doing that tomorrow at 10:30. I don't know when this is airing, but we do that every Sunday, 10:30 on Eastern time. But yeah, you can just follow me there. You can reach out to me on my website if you have any questions, or you just, you need some help with something.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're so informative. Thank you, Paula, so much. We love having you. And everyone, please connect with Paula. And we are sharing own stories, experience, and conclusions. And with that, Paula, thank you so much. And I will see you very shortly. And with that, with everyone who is watching us, thank you very much for being with us on the Dr. Connect show. And join and subscribe our YouTube channel and comment and connect with us. And we are super excited to have you on our journey with us. And thank you so much for watching and listening. And we are looking forward to seeing you in the next one.